Did you know that in some parts of the world thousands of people are put to death every year, and we don't even know the exact number? It's true. While many countries are moving away from the death penalty, others are holding on to it, and some are keeping their numbers a state secret. Imagine a number so high, a government feels it has to hide it. That's the reality we're talking about. This isn't a history lesson about the Middle Ages, this is happening right now, in 2025. Organizations like Amnesty International try their best to track these figures, but often have to call their totals the minimum confirmed, meaning the real total is probably much, much higher. It's like trying to count the stars in the sky, but someone has put up a giant curtain. You know there are more stars back there, you just can't see them. This lack of transparency is a huge problem because it lets countries carry out ultimate punishments without real international scrutiny. So, who are the main players in this grim league table? China is widely believed to be the world's leading executioner. Estimates suggest thousands are executed there every year. The exact number is a closely guarded state secret, but the scale dwarfs the rest of the world combined, following China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iraq. Iran uses the death penalty extensively, often for drug-related offenses. People are sent to their deaths for crimes that elsewhere might lead to rehabilitation. In Saudi Arabia, the methods and reasons for execution can be particularly shocking. Executions reported for witchcraft, executions reported for sorcery, executions reported for adultery. In 2025, self-driving cars missions to Mars, people are still being put to death for sorcery. Egypt has seen a dramatic spike in executions in recent years. Hundreds sentenced, often after mass trials criticized for fairness. And then North Korea, another black box. So how does someone end up on death row in these places? The process can be frighteningly simple and often lacks the safeguards we might take for granted. In many of these countries, a death sentence can be handed down for crimes that are not considered the most serious under international law. We aren't just talking about murder. Drug trafficking is a common one, but it can also include things like economic crimes, blasphemy, or even political opposition. The trials themselves are often a major cause for concern. Imagine being arrested and not being allowed to see a lawyer of your choice, or being forced to sign a confession in a language you don't understand. These are not hypothetical scenarios. They are documented realities for many people who end up sentenced to death. In some cases, trials are held in secret, or they are incredibly rushed. Justice, as they say, is blind. But in these situations it feels like it's also deaf and in a very big hurry. The use of confessions obtained through torture or coercion is another dark truth. A person can be physically or psychologically broken down until they admit to a crime, whether they did it or not. That confession then becomes the primary piece of evidence used to sentence them to death. When the final day comes, the methods of execution are as varied as they are brutal. The most common method used worldwide is lethal injection, often presented as the most humane option, but even that is filled with problems. Botched executions where inmates suffer for long periods. Other methods are far more visceral and openly violent. Beheading with a sword, Saudi Arabia, sometimes publicly. Firing squads, China, North Korea. In Iran and Afghanistan, stoning has been used. It is an incredibly cruel and slow death, where a crowd participates in the killing. And then there's hanging, one of the oldest methods which remains the primary form of execution in countries like Iran, Egypt, and Japan. In some places, the families of the condemned are forced to pay for the bullet used in the execution. Not only do you lose your loved one, but you are then handed a bill for the instrument of their death. It's a level of cruelty that is hard to comprehend. As we look at these facts in 2025, we have to ask ourselves a simple question: does this make sense anymore? In a world where we strive for progress, for human rights, and for a more just society, it's a conversation we need to keep having.